After a week of speculation, it is about to be official. Klint Kubiak will be the offensive coordinator of the New Orleans Saints. Let's talk about this move and why I think it is the right hire for a team that still insists they're in win-now mode going into the 2024 season.
You're listening to the Straight Up Saints podcast.
What is up, Who Dat Nation? Welcome back inside another edition of the Straight Up Saints podcast. I'm your host, Chris Rosvoglu, and as always, we're brought to you by Scott Fickner, Injury Lawyers, and DraftKings Sportsbook. So I just mentioned at the top, Klint Kubiak is expected to be the Saints offensive coordinator. It's going to be official later today. Ian Rappaport kind of putting the finishing touches on it. He said that the Saints and Kubiak have reached a deal. He was their top target all along, and Kubiak's hire gives Dennis Allen a rising play caller who was coveted by several other teams. So I think that last part of it is pretty interesting. Let's start going through everything that I like about the move and what I think it means for the Saints. So let's start off with the play call himself in Kubiak, right? Kubiak has called plays before. He was the offensive coordinator for the Vikings in 2021. And although the Vikings didn't have a lot of team success, they were under 500. They missed the playoffs. Kirk Cousins, 33 touchdowns, 7 picks, had a pretty good efficient season there. Obviously, you look at the 49ers this year, what they were able to do. You know, you're a player or two away from being Super Bowl champions, obviously. And I know that a lot of the credit, and rightfully so, is going to go to Shanahan's system and what Shanahan's able to do. But you got to give Kubiak some love too, especially with him being the pass game specialist. And you see the growth of Brock Purdy. I thought Brock Purdy was a vastly different quarterback this year than last year. I think he's taken strides as you'd expect. Now, I'm not saying that's all because of Kubiak. That would be a lie. But Kubiak clearly played a pretty good, significant role on that 49ers passing attack, which featured an MVP finalist at quarterback. So I think in terms of the resume, you like it. The background, we know the lineage there with Kubiak and the Shanahans and how they're kind of intertwined, and they've been intertwined for the last 30 years or so. And I think that's intriguing because the one thing that we know with Kubiaks is they like to put an emphasis on running the football. And I think for New Orleans, that's a big factor, right? I'll sit here for the next couple of weeks, months, whatever, talking about how the Saints got to get better quarterback play out of Derek Carr. And there's no question about that, right? The Saints are not going to be a playoff team if they can't get decent quarterback play out of Carr. But they also got to be able to run the football. And I think I could say this as someone who has always advocated for running the football for the Saints. I did it during the Breeze days. I'll do it now. The Saints have one of the worst rushing attacks in the NFL. It's bland. It's boring. It's not explosive. Part of that is they need to get better at the running back position. Alvin's getting older. Jamal Williams can't do anything outside of getting a first down on 3rd and 1. And Kendre Miller, I think he's the running back that has the juice, but he hasn't been healthy. So I think New Orleans has to get better at running the football, and you'd like to think that because of the Kubiak lineage and background that they should do that. So I love that part of it. I love the success that Kubiak has had with quarterbacks so far, at least 2 out of his last 3 stints. The one that didn't work out was Denver, but the more you hear about Denver, the more you're like, okay, this shit was not going to work with Hackett because he was way in over his head. So I think it's intriguing. The part that Ian Rappaport mentioned about Kubiak going to the Saints and several other teams targeting him, I think that's good news for the Saints. When you go out there and you have a number 1 target, and Kubiak seemed to be their target, and you go out and get him, yes, we still have questions about Dennis Allen. We still have questions about whether or not this team can be a winner. But while there seems to be so much doom and gloom, clearly there are people around the league that still view the Saints as a decent team to go to, a decent landing spot. That's what I see from this, for Kubiak to choose the Saints. So I'm excited about that aspect. I think that it will debunk a lot of narratives right now, a lot of negative narratives about how people view this team. And look, I still think the Saints have a lot of work to be done, a lot. But to get your number 1 target, how can I not be happy about that? So I'm definitely thrilled that Kubiak is on board for the New Orleans Saints. But it doesn't stop there. I think there's another factor to this Kubiak hire that makes it interesting. And I think it's all about putting Dennis Allen in a position where there are no more excuses.
Looking for a super offer for Super Bowl 58? DraftKings Sportsbook has you covered. New customers can bet on the big game and turn $5 into $200 instantly in bonus bets. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code BOOT. New customers can bet $5 to get $200 instantly in bonus bets. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of Super Bowl 58 with code BOOT. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Must be 21 or older in most eligible states, but age varies by jurisdiction. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details and state-specific responsible gambling resources. Eligibility and deposit restrictions apply. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. Terms at sportsbook.draftkings.com/basketball terms.
So when it comes to Dennis Allen and no excuses, I think what I look at it is this, right? I think that when you look at the last two seasons, the first one with Dennis Allen, a lot of it was him saying, hey, we didn't have the quarterback, right? Jameis Winston got hurt. Andy Dalton came in. Neither one is a franchise guy. So if 2022 was all about not having the right quarterback, you go out, you get Derek Carr. The Saints splurge on Derek Carr. They bring him in. That is someone that Dennis Allen was part of with the Raiders when they drafted him. So you got your guy. Carr is his guy, and you bring him in. And Carr struggled mightily in the beginning. Part of it was it just seemed like the offense was off. Guys were running the same freaking routes. Carr also got hurt. And Carr wasn't good enough. He simply wasn't good enough. And now the Saints did pick it up towards the end of the year, and I thought Derek Carr played his best football in December and January, which is obviously what you want to see. You just would want it to mean something and be a playoff team when you're playing your best football in December and January, which the Saints obviously were not. But the quarterback was the excuse in 2022. The excuse for 2023 is clearly offensive coordinator because you move on from Pete Carmichael, you move on from Doug Marrone, you move on from Cody Burns, you move on from Ronald Curry. So your whole offensive staff pretty much got cleaned out. So if 2022 was the quarterback excuse, 2023 was the offensive staff excuse. Now that Kubiak is in, and now that Kubiak, as we know from the reports, was the Saints' number one option at offensive coordinator, there are no more excuses. And that's a good thing because us Saints fans have to approach this season, and the Saints front office have to approach this season as you better be a playoff team, and you better be respectable as fuck in the playoffs. And if not, Dennis Allen's got to go. And I'm not going to sit here and put that negative energy of saying this and that about how I feel about Dennis Allen. My stance on him has been clear for the last 2 years. I don't think he's a good coach. However, he got the quarterback he wanted. He got the OC he wanted. Time to put up or shut up, and that's got to be the motto for the Saints this year. And I like that because I think the worst thing for the Saints would be to go into this offseason where it's still like, well, they don't have the quarterback they want, or they don't have the OC they want. No. Dennis Allen and Mickey Loomis feel like they have the guys they want in the building. And you don't have to like it. I don't have to like it. As long as they feel that way, if they come up short of their expectations, we'll get the changes we're clamoring for. Or they will prove us wrong, and we'll reap the benefits of watching a successful football team. Either way, I see that as a massive win. The Saints either figure this shit out and get back to being a respectable team, or they go, you know what? This isn't working with DA. We got to get another coach in. And then you start anew. Either way, though, I think the Kubiak hire gets you to that point of it's kind of all or nothing. All the cards are on the table. All the chips are on the table. You figure it out. And I think that's the best scenario. So for me, when I see this Kubiak hire get officialized and he's the guy and that's who DA wanted, I say good because there's no more excuses. Because you can't blame quarterback. You can't blame OC. You handpicked both. And you're not going to blame your defense, obviously, because that's his side of the ball. And if you blame the defense, then it falls on one guy. So I think this Kubiak hire definitely does some good for the Saints in that regard. I also think it's just a good hire in general. I think he checks off so many boxes for this team. Now, will it work? Only time will tell, right? Only time will tell. And it's up to Kubiak and Carr to get on the same page immediately. I hope those two today are on the phone because that's how it should work. And we shall see. But I'm excited. And I, as someone who's been very negative about the Saints, it's nice to find something that I genuinely can't fake, can't exaggerate, feel like, you know what? The Saints did good here. And I think they did with bringing in Kubiak. But I want to know what you guys think about the hire for Klint Kubiak OC. Obviously, it's not a surprise. It's been reported for about 2 weeks now. But now that it is being finalized, they've agreed to a deal. Let me know your thoughts below. Do you think it's the right move? Do you think it puts the Saints in that all or nothing situation for Dennis Allen? Let me know and I'll get back to you. As always, guys, subscribe to Boo Crew Media so you get more videos from the Straight Up Saints podcast, the destination for the Who Dat